Hi, Brian White's filling in for Buck Levasseur. Welcome to Discovering. Well, spring was almost here. We were that close. And now this. Living in the UP, we should almost expect it. It is what it is, and all you can do is make the best of it. So I woke up this morning and decided that's what I was going to do. I packed up my backpack, grabbed a sleeping bag and some tarps, a little bit of food, and I'm heading into the woods. I'm going camping. Just because winter won't leave doesn't mean you can't get out and enjoy the great UP outdoors. Join me for a night in the woods. And later, we'll take a look at what might be the ultimate lean, mean mosquito killing machine. Sit back, put your feet up, and come on along. It's Monday night and time for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
All winter I talked about going winter camping. Departure, hour and a half late. I've read about it, I've seen it on the internet, but I've never tried it. My plan this winter was to finally make it happen. I'd go in rabbit season so I could do some hunting, kind of give the trip a purpose. Well, that never worked out, and as the snow finally disappeared from the landscape, I eventually slid it back over to next year's list of things that I'm going to do for sure. Then I woke up one Friday morning and lo and behold, the ground was once again white. After a bit of pacing around the kitchen and a couple cups of coffee, I decided it was time. No more thinking about it, no more excuses. Just do it. My plan was to hike back in the woods about 20 miles and set up camp for a week. Okay, not really. My wife already thinks I'm nuts. I don't need to do any more to help prove she's right. My plan was to hike back into the woods about a mile and set up camp for an overnight stay. Rabbit season was over, so I grabbed the last package of rabbit from the freezer, grabbed a couple of tarps from the garage, a coffee pot, and the rest of the essentials. Patty dropped me off, and my adventure began. Well, I'm roaming around now looking for a good spot to build a shelter. I kind of want to find something where there's some good firewood, so I don't have to carry firewood very far, and some trees, some logs that I can use to build a shelter. And a couple of trees close to each other, about 8 feet apart to match my tarp that I'm going to set up, and try to get that so it's kind of parallel with the wind. I'm going to build a fire in front of it to help keep warm overnight, and if you get the wind to your back, it kind of wants to create an eddy and suck that smoke back into your shelter. If you, with the wind in your face, of course, it's blowing right inside. You get it alongside, it kind of keeps the smoke away, and go from there. See what we can find. So you know, I'm no survivor man, and this isn't Man vs. Wild. This is my first time at winter camping, and just like most of us, whatever I know from time spent in the woods and from the internet. Well, I found what I think is going to be my camp spot for the night. There's firewood close by, and some good logs to make a shelter out of, and it's got everything I need, I believe. A couple trees close enough together to put my tarp on, and it's got a good view. That may not seem like a lot, but I'm out here to enjoy myself. I want a good view as well as a spot that works. We'll see what happens. that should be a decent spot. Kind of a little bit of an angle. If any snow does melt from the fire, it's going to run away from me. I looked at a bunch of different options on the internet for shelters and whatnot. I just kind of picked out something that was simple. I'm sure by the time this is done, I'll have found a better way. First thing I need to do is get a few logs. One across here, 2 more down, and we'll go from there. These are used for everything. You can't beat them. The plan is to build a fire right in front of it, right here. And hopefully that'll keep the heat trapped in it to keep me a little bit extra warm. Even though it's not that cold out, it's in the low to mid 30s. That's home. Now I'm going to throw a little bit of brush in here just to keep a little bit of protection between me and the ground. You want to make sure if you're going to do that, you're somewhere where you can get the landowner's permission to cut the brush, which I did. The main goal is to be able to keep some of the heat from the fire kind of hopefully reflecting into here. I've seen shelters where they're laid out similar to this, and they've got a space blanket on here to help reflect the heat and keep it bouncing onto your body. Because the snow doesn't want to stop coming down on this lovely April day, I decided to put a little bit of a wall over here. Next step is going to be to build a fire. Everything's covered with snow and basically wet. What I'd like to use is some balsam pitch. If you can find some balsam trees, which of course there happens to be none around here, close by anyway. You can tell the balsams because they've got 2 rows of flat needles on each side of the stem, whereas spruce, for example, has needles all the way around the stem and are sharper, not flat or round. And the balsam, the tree itself, is covered with blisters full of pitch, full of sap. And that pitch is amazing stuff, handy to have. Great for starting fires, it's flammable. All you need is a flint and away you go. It's actually also an antiseptic. So if you get cut, you can put it on, it'll actually help heal the wound. Not to mention it's sticky, so if you get cut, you could actually stick a cut back together with it. It's even edible. It's got some sort of sugars in it or something that give you a boost of energy if you're, I don't know, starving to death. It doesn't taste very good. But I looked around a little bit and didn't see any balsams here, so I think we'll be just fine without them, because I happened to run across this bird nest. So I knocked some of the outside off where the snow was. Hopefully it'll do what I need it to do. And instead of a flint, we're going to use a lighter. Perfect. Now the long battle of getting wood and more wood, because I need enough wood, not only for right now, not only to cook some dinner, but for the entire night and for breakfast. Well, we're all kind of settled in. Got some wood, another pile over there, good for the night, hopefully. I'm going to move it up closer here so I can grab it without getting up. Right now we're getting some coals going, get the fire down where I need it. We're going to cook some dinner. On the menu is some leftover rabbit that I've got from actually a show this past year, and some beans. Pre-mixed up bag of breading.
Don't miss the Woodtick Music Festival in Hermansville, Michigan. 4 days of great bluegrass, country, folk, blues, and rock and roll. Over 25 bands, fun for the entire family. Carry-ins, welcome kids 12 and under free. Buy your tickets and campsites and find out everything you need to know online at woodtickfestival.com. That's woodtickfestival.com. The Woodtick Music Festival in Hermansville, Michigan.
Not a restaurant in the world can compare. Well, I believe dinner is ready. Well, with a belly full of rabbit and a long day behind me, it was pretty easy to relax by the fire. But the relaxation was short-lived. The task of stockpiling enough firewood to last through the night turned out to be the most demanding part of the trip. I scrounged for firewood until dark. A couple snorts of Crown and into the sleeping bag. I can tell you for a fact, there's really nothing else similar to laying in a warm sleeping bag a few feet from a crackling fire in the middle of nowhere. No people, no sounds, no worries. A long night and a pile of firewood later, the woods around me once again became visible. And it wasn't long before the smell of fresh coffee blended with the wood smoke to create a smell I won't soon forget. It's morning. Time to slide out of my sleeping bag. Time to slip back into my boots. And time for breakfast. Well, it was time to go home. But not before sitting back with a cup of hot coffee, reflecting on the past 24 hours, and taking it all in. The smells, the snow, the solitude. Being part of nature instead of just walking through it. Having time to look at the trees I walked by countless times in deer season. Realizing the significance of your fire for heat and cooking and keeping you company. Well, that's about it. It was a good trip. Nothing left now but tearing down and hiking back out. Things I'd do different? Firewood. Next time I do this, I'm going to go ahead of time, cut some firewood with a chainsaw, and have it ready. Pick a spot out ahead of time. Because you tend to spend all your time scrounging up firewood, including a couple pieces I found along the road that I'd cut in the past that I had to hike to go get. But other than that, perfect. That, next time I'll bring my wife. Yeah, there's no doubt there's something inspiring about spending the night under the stars. A tarp, 3 logs, and some rope becomes your bedroom, closet, kitchen, and dining room. But I guess it's time to tear it down and head home. Well, maybe just one more cup of coffee. It's time for the Yupi Outdoor Calendar. May 3rd through the 5th, it's the Manistee Recreation Outdoor Expo at the Little Bear West Arena in Manistee. And on May 4th, the Ontonagon Valley Sportsman's Club will be holding their 14th annual Smelt Fry in Bruce Crossing. If you're traveling through Curtis anytime soon, be sure to stop in at the Erickson Center for the Arts and check out the Gone Fishing exhibit. If you've got something happening in your area you'd like to see on the outdoor calendar, let us know by visiting us at realoutdoorsup.com. If you look up ways to kill mosquitoes, you'll find a multitude of suggestions. Citronella candles, mosquito coils, bug zappers, and more. Do any of them really work? Who knows? What if you could find something that would zap up to 1,000 mosquito-sized insects an hour? And what if you had thousands of them, and they were free? Venture deep into the caves and abandoned iron mines of the Upper Peninsula, and it's there that you'll find the silent army of nocturnal hunters of insects. In the tens of thousands, they wait patiently, in a state of hibernation for months, waiting for spring, waiting for the temperatures to warm up and the onslaught of insects to fill the skies. They do their work at night while we're asleep, searching out and destroying their prey through echolocation. By the time we awaken, they're gone, vanished from the skies along with millions of pesky mosquitoes. Big brown and little brown bats from all over the region come here to hibernate during the winter months. They migrate in from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Ontario, and perhaps even the Lower Peninsula. The bats start arriving in late August and early September. They remain in hibernation throughout the winter and begin emerging in late April and May. They require specific temperatures for hibernation ranging from 35 to 40 degrees, making abandoned mines the perfect winter motel. This hibernation period is the perfect time to study and monitor the condition of these fascinating and misunderstood creatures. I got the scoop from the DNR Batman, Bill Scullin, while he and a small team were conducting a study in a nearby abandoned iron mine.
We're doing an annual bat survey. We do surveys systematically across the state of Michigan in old abandoned mines and caves and man-made structures that support hibernating bats. And here we're doing one in an abandoned iron mine. We were in here 2 years ago doing a survey, so every year we come back and we try and survey these sites, look for what species of bats here, what the populations of bats are doing, and more importantly, we're looking for white nose syndrome, signs of white nose syndrome. It's a new disease in North America that started in 2006. It's an invasive fungus that gets into the area, contaminates the area, and it causes the bats to have extreme high rates of mortality. It is now, most recently been announced in South Carolina and Georgia. There's 22 states and 4 Canadian provinces that have this disease. We do not have it in Michigan, fortunately. But one of the things we're looking for is signs of this, which would be a white fungal growth on the bare skin of the bats, or any aberrant behavior where bats would be flying around abnormally in the wintertime, emerging from a cave or mine in the middle of winter, Because what happens is this fungus grows into their skin. It causes lesions. It causes the bats to be irritated, awakened more prematurely than normal. And what happens is they groom this fungus off. They burn up energy reserves much faster than normal. So they emerge from the sites prematurely, and they can fly out onto the landscape. And obviously, if they come out in the middle of wintertime, they succumb because there's no insects for them to feed on. So what happens is that they die in the landscape in mass or in sight. And we have not had any reports like that in Michigan. We look forward to the participation from citizens. If they see anything abnormal like that, they call the DNR, let us know. We'll go out and look at the site and see what's going on. We have not had those reports in Michigan, fortunately, yet. But what we're doing also is we're looking across the landscape, trying to identify new abandoned sites that are out there that have no form of protection whatsoever. We work with the landowners to secure these sites, to provide some kind of a protection for public safety, obviously is paramount, and then also to try and secure the site for bats. We build these bat-friendly gates. There's steel structures on these sites that allow the bats to come and go, but it keeps people out. And it helps the landowner obviously mitigate liability, ensures public safety, but also ensures that habitat is conserved properly for bats for the long term. Because all the bat species we have here in Michigan, they're highly beneficial. In fact, they eat lots of insects. Just from an agricultural standpoint alone, the estimate is about $526 million a year annually in Michigan benefits to farmers, just from the amount of volume of insects that are consumed by bats in the state of Michigan. That doesn't start to get at the numbers that benefit from forest health, because they eat gypsy moths, things that are pests to us in the forest industry or land management. So they're highly beneficial, and we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to conserve these species, conserve their critical habitat. And these mines serve as critical winter habitat because they come in here in September, October, they enter hibernation, they're in here until March or April, and this year maybe even until May, with the delayed spring that we're looking at. So disturbance is an issue for us. We try and minimize disturbance when we have these sites protected. We keep the public out. What we're doing here today is research. So we have a research team coming in to do the surveillance. And we also follow decontamination protocols. So as you can see, we're all wearing the Tyvek suits, and we scrub in, scrub out to avoid any kind of contamination of the fungal spores from that may cause white nose. So we're trying to do all we can to try and conserve these species, conserve their habitat, and look at the long-term benefits for the state of Michigan.
So the next time you look into the evening sky and get a glimpse of one of these tiny, stealthy hunters, before you cover your hair and get out the broom, picture 1,000 mosquitoes, not swarming around your head.